in a few weeks we'll have a treaty, and then, oh no, sorry, that's a totally different thing.
A
I meant
treaty.
in a few weeks they're going to figure out what's going on, right? They're going to say,
The nation
hey,
of Anthropic will have signed a treaty with the nation of the USA.
that's it. We've signed a treaty, and now we're going to release this new model. But first of all, that day, just think about it, their servers are going to melt down.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our on podcast, Product Mind. And today we're starting off with a bang. So on Thursday, actually not on Thursday, for about 36 hours, Anthropic released their latest and greatest model called Fable 5, which was a stepchild. I don't know. Like, it was a progeny of Mythos. Project Glasswing. We've talked about this in the past just a little bit, but if you don't know the details, Mythos was a very advanced model from Anthropic, and it was very good at finding vulnerabilities in existing software. So think about all the infrastructure in the world, energy, banks, operating systems. Mythos could look at something that even nation states hadn't found problems or vulnerabilities in, and to find what they call 0 days very quickly. Right? It was preternaturally very good at this. And as Anthropic understood this, by the way, if you understand this, just skip 15 seconds forward. As Anthropic understood this, they decided to submit to regulation from the US government. So they created a small program, exposed it to the national security state, and they said to bring trusted people, usually companies, into this, security researchers, so that they could audit their surface areas first before they released it to everybody. They didn't want people to get Mythos and start to exploit vulnerabilities, which would make the world unsafe. So they launched this on April 27th. Glasswing probably took off before then, before they even announced it. And then fast forward to Thursday last week, they released Fable 5. Fable 5 was supposedly their attempt to make a consumer version of this with safeguards. With Fable 5, you could not do chemistry, some physics, so you couldn't synthesize poisons. You couldn't do crazy chimera biology and stuff like that, right? That was the idea. 36 hours later, the US government asked for restrictions to US people of US nationality alone. And because Anthropic could not satisfy that request, they pulled it from everyone on the planet. Okay, now we have two brilliant people here with me. We have the brilliant Izine, and we have the brilliant Ted. And so we're going to talk about it. We're going to give you some context about why this is important for you to understand. So first of all, we're going to kick it off to Izine. Isn't it what is going on with the US government pulling Fable 5 from everyone on the planet?
I mean, what is going on? I wish I knew what they're thinking. But I think what sits with me, or what are the concerns I have, is if I were at Anthropic and we're going through this, I would be asking myself what we kind of got wrong. Because for the longest time, we knew we had Mythos, we were working with the government, and somehow, somewhere, I don't know how long it took them, Fable 5 was then released. So who approved it to be released? What were the conversations that were had, et cetera, et cetera? Anthropic has been really clear that they want that government should be involved with AI, that they know that its power is huge. So how did they get to a place where, in spite of creating these safeguards, they release something and then it gets pulled back? The other thing is, having been in the data world and understanding why the provenance of data matters, being able to do data lineage, being able to pull back data, particularly with the GDPR thing that happened, right, where consumers had more rights. From the launch of Mythos to Fable 5 was so short that I'm wondering if enough guardrails were really put in place. And if we knew that they were state level risks, why didn't a layer, like this is one of the issues people have had, which is the LLM and the application layer are owned by the same company in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't there an abstraction of identity so that you can actually add governmental guardrails in some way? So there's just something off about the productization piece of Fable. And that's kind of what's sitting with me. And yes, there's a lot of noise, but if I were sitting in there and really trying to understand, okay, what went wrong? Why is this happening? Those are the kind of questions I would be asking. What happened with our governmental committee?
So would you really
actually-
expect a private company to restrict people based on their citizenship legitimately in business?
Not necessarily, because we're not a state. US is US, right? But if you understand and say and have said that LLMs, frontier models, are this risky, right? Pose a security risk. What then, as a product manager, my question then is, how are you guarding against this? And I don't think they answer that question well. If you
Okay,
if you actually have a bomb, right? Let's just say, and you think that the government needs to be involved, right, for its release, then either the government said it was okay for you to release, or they did not, and the right conversations were not had, or you did not protect yourself from this happening in some.
I think we should assume that the government said it was okay to release, given the safeguards they put in place.
Yeah,
Because
I don't know
of
about
Glasswing.
that.
Yes, but
Maybe.
No, I think
Maybe. I mean, listen, I think part of the story is let's a little bit of history about government intervention in our own country with this stuff, right? So let's remember just in this particular situation, Anthropic has fought with the US government before, remember? When they refused to put controls and limitations that the government wanted. And Anthropic said, no, hold on. Wait, we're not going to let you do this because we wanted this stuff to be used for good and not for,
Isn't it the other way around? They gave it to the government.
Yeah, to the government. I meant they.
The government said we want to use it for offensive capabilities, and they're like,
and
we won't
Anthropic said
give it to
no.
you for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so remember that whole kerfuffle, right?
Yeah.
And remember how OpenAI just kind of jumped in there, Altman jumped in there saying, oh, we'll do it, or whatever. And the whole thing was whatever mess. Now, so even in this just very specific regulation of these particular frontier models, we have this history. Now, the other thing is the Trump administration has not been at very good at, let's say, being consistent in their decision making. And so they're very, very, very mercurial. And this, there's lots of rumors about how this
They're
may
not
happen.
known for their finesse, shall we say.
Well, there's rumors of phone calls, right, from Amazon, from various people, whether directly sabotaging or God knows what. Somebody called the Treasury Secretary and he's like, hey, put a stop to this and this. This could be one of these things, or maybe one group said yes, good, the other group said no, not good, and then someone else said okay, and on, right? We don't know the truth, and we'll never know the truth about that. But I think if we go back in history, for all three of us certainly were alive back when we had export controls on software before, and it was about encryption. So hard, like super awesome encryption, right? Very robust encryption is very specific IP. It is defendable, and it is something that the U.S. government in the 90s said, no, you cannot sell this to external people. You cannot sell anything.
Yeah, I remember that.
You cannot sell the libraries of it itself, right? You cannot give this capability to anyone other than Americans. And so you end up with things like the Netscape browser that actually supported different encryption, okay? Whether it was in US or outside US, right? And now ultimately what happened, right? Like encryption didn't go away, right? Encryption became even more important, right? Especially now we're about to have the quantum revolution. So encryption became harder and more difficult to write these more advanced algorithms, right? So this became very weaponized IP. Literally the same words we talk about here as ordnance, as weaponry, right? The US government said literally this will kill Americans if you let foreign powers have this stuff, right? And so what happened? They tried to regulate it. They shut it down, right? And the people who built business models around this had to change their business model. Because if your business model was, I'm going to sell this software, and now the rest of the world is now no longer your client, you better change your business model, right?
Yeah, you can't make as much money as you thought you were. And your venture backing is like really pissed off.
Yeah, and you want to integrate this capability into your software and say, my software is the best protected stuff. Well, guess what? It can't be. So you actually have to choose to make your clients less protected in order to sell it to more people in the world, right? That was the decision that had to get made. Now, the difference, of course, is time, right? As NA just said, 1 month is not a lot of time. Well, 1 month back then wasn't a lot of time either, right? But it was more time because everything took much more time for it to come out, right? We didn't have the internet as we knew it today. In fact, this was the ground stages of the internet.
That's right. That's right.
Right? We certainly didn't have social media or AI, the things that just at the speed of
Well, I
thought.
mean, what happened? Like, clearly, the world eventually got all that encryption.
I
It
wonder
was
how.
worked around because it was
wonder
all
how.
software. Yeah, I mean, even it's trivial for me to think about how this would escape.
Right.
So
Right.
let me
Now,
ask maybe
remember,
a
though,
different
it was a
question.
different world, Logi. It's a different world back then, okay? It wasn't
Yeah.
just, I'm just going to go slack this up to my buddy in China, all right? You couldn't do that.
So let me
Right?
ask a different. You can send a zip drive or a
Drop it in the
USB
mail.
drive. So let me ask a question for both of you, because Azina sort of came at it, I think, I think underneath what she said was some credibility. She basically assumed some credibility with the government, right? And you mentioned some parallels and analogy to what has happened in the past. But actually, what I'm saying is, who has credibility, right? Like, do we trust, for a better word, the government / the Trump administration's disposition of this, or even their statements? And if you go back to the analogy, what was the benefit of the U.S. prescribing crypto controls? Did it work? I don't think it worked.
Ultimately,
And
of course,
did it
work.
halt anything? And did it harm the world when it didn't work?
So I think it certainly did harm the world. Now, and I think it did slow things down, right? Which I think is probably the point here too, as any of these export controls it's about, right? Including chips, right? All you can do is slow down. You can't stop, right? Information is going to be free. We're a democracy, or we pretend to be. So information flows pretty free here, right? So it's not that difficult, as you said, even back then when you didn't have the internet. So what? Yeah, you could just physically move it out, right? But still, it didn't happen for quite a while, or at least it didn't happen openly for quite a while. So maybe, Chinese or Russian actors got a hold of it pretty damn quick, but they weren't they weren't releasing it out to their public companies, okay, anytime soon. So it was still kept within at least the commercial sphere only in the US for quite a long time. Now, did that result in competitive advantage for U.S. companies? Did that result? I think the answer to a lot of these things is yes, but did it really matter? In the scheme of things, the answer is, of course, no, right? It just took longer for it to get out there. Now, the difference here is much, much, much more massive. And I want to point out that I think this is part of the reason why we consider it, or why you and I think it's reasonable to consider this ordinance, right? Because it is so powerful. Right. And maybe, I did not actually get a chance to go use this. Like literally, I'm going to go check it out this weekend. And literally I try to turn the damn thing on and I get the message. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what do I do? Like,
So actually for our listeners, I talked to Ted on Thursday and I'm like, dude, have you used Fable?
Right.
And he's like, no, I'm just getting back. My voice is trash. And I'm like, you got to go use Fable. Right. And then Azina is using Fable for some work. And on Friday, I meet her and I say, hey, they just yanked Fable. And she goes to her laptop, trying to use the last gasps of Fable.
Last user on the planet.
Isn't it go?
It responded. It literally did. I was working on a task or a project, and then I asked for something, and it gave me my response. And then the second, I was like, okay, now let's go. I wanted to build a very complex plan. I was like, oops. So after like 1 minute of doing its thing, it came back. I was like, sorry. I actually screen grabbed the error.
Yeah,
we should put that up when we put it up. Like what Fable did when you try to use its last gasp. But isn't it? You seem pregnant with. You sound like you had something to say.
Yeah, you asked the question of who to trust, right?
Yeah.
And never would a product person or even a business person trust the government. Period. It's just that's
really a lot of people trust the government.
No, like you would not put. No, how do I put this? I mean, in this day and age, right? The commercial viability of a tech industry, you have to create. I think you have to create a protection for oneself, right? Or at least try and anticipate where they're going.
But why did your statements naturally seem like a trusted the governmental statement. So I'm a little
No,
like
no.
confused.
I guess what I'm trying to get across is I still maintain my ground in that in a Trump government, as well as given the history Anthropic has had with this government, right? I am still confused or confounded, or not confused, but I'm surprised that a few guardrails were not put in place. So I think either in the product or the go to market, the ability to pull back in a way that isn't as broken as what we just experienced. That's what I'm simply saying.
Well,
Like,
let me
if I were
repost. They did not
launching,
expect the U.S. government to ask them to filter their users by citizenship. They
No.
were not prepared for that, and there's no precedent for it.
understood, but again, if you know the government, like if you look at the news for the last year and a half or 3 years, it is one of the most likely
You can't
things that
predict
could happen.
mad people. You can't predict them
Oh,
perfectly.
come
Yeah,
on.
I don't know.
Hold on. With all the
I put
deportations,
popcorn.
et cetera, that was going to be their first thing that they were going to do. Protect us. It has been the resounding cry from the government in the last 2 years or year and a half. So hear me out, please. I am not blaming Anthropic. I'm not going back and saying, in hindsight, they could have done X, Y, Z, but it just is the point of there is building the product, putting the guardrails in the product. Then there is watching your industry and figuring out what the go to market is. And I think that that's where things were just a little weak, right?
Sure.
If from the announcement, the launch, even the pricing, when all these things happen, I think the risk was very present.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I
like
mean,
if
so
you are
so
selling
so
ordnance, the question
Yes.
is, what is enough? What is enough protection for it? But let's take another
yeah, yeah.
tack on
So how
this.
about this?
Go
How
ahead.
about this as a take then? It's so bad because it's deliberately bad, right? Just look at the PR that they're getting out of this. Okay, they're at the corporate IPO. Is it possible this is completely like botched on purpose? Right? They show it to only a few people. They pull it away right away. They blame the government, and then now it's just like this big hype
I
machine.
can't tell if you're being serious. Are you being
I,
serious? I know. I know for a fact that their valuation, they've both filed notifications to
yeah,
OpenAI and whatever.
And
And
Anthropic.
yeah.
Anthropic's valuation is north of OpenAI's
It
now,
is.
which was inconceivable. And now, given this, I mean, you're part right that this is going to double their damn valuation, right?
You
I mean,
think?
who doesn't want this? As soon
But do
as
you
they
really
figure this
think that
out, right?
they
In a few weeks, we'll have a treaty, and then, oh no, sorry, that's a totally different thing.
a
I
treaty?
meant in a few weeks, they're going to figure out what's going on, right? They're going to say,
The nation
hey,
of Anthropic will have signed a treaty with the nation of the USA.
US.
that's it. We've signed a treaty, and now we're going to release this new model. But first of all, that day, just think about it, their servers are going to melt down. There's like, you know how many people are going to sign up to go use this thing? It's going to be insane.
Yeah,
It is.
and
You can't buy this level of
yeah,
PR though.
they did well though. They gave people back the people who upgraded. I mean, they did well. So I think
Yeah.
they bought goodwill with people. So people will rush this.
I mean,
But let's
the
step
internet
back.
trusts them more than the U.S. government. I can
Anybody
tell you
else.
that.
Yeah. So, but if we
Sure.
really step back, guys, one of the things that I've been like, we do know that this train has left the station and it's not going back. We will get
Yes, in a year we will have Mythos class local models
So
that
what
will
does
have
that mean?
open weights with open weights, not via an API.
Absolutely.
We will have it. You can download it and run it on Olama. So, what is the point of this?
I think it's about control, like figuring out what governance looks like.
Controlled by who?
Yeah. This is the whole AI ethics, AI governance, AI. Who's building this stuff and what are they doing with it? If everybody has a bomb, we all have bombs. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that the Second Amendment is basically this, right? That's an argument
Yes.
from the right. It is like if the military is gonna have guns, we better all have guns.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
Yes. Oh
A little bit, a little bit.
I
I mean,
don't know
listen, I
that
think
they have answers
there's
today,
some
though.
truth to this, right? There's some truth to this. Look, again, I think we're missing a little bit of the boat here, which is also that Fable doesn't only do 0-day exploits. Okay,
Yes.
right? Like, this is not just a model designed just to hack stuff. Okay,
No,
so
not at all. I used it. It was the first model that felt like I had to elevate myself to it. I've been using Opus 4.5, 4.6, 4.8, whatever. And with my most complex projects, I had to steer it. I had to be like, sometimes
yeah,
I actually
yeah, yeah,
get,
yeah, yeah. You keep
I'll
beating
be
your head
like,
against the wall,
boo,
doing the daunting
boo, why,
stuff.
why are
Do
you
that.
saying this?
Do
You made a
this.
bad assumption. With Fable,
You
I'm
just
like, I am dumber than this model. That's how
See,
I
that's
felt.
amazing, and I want to try that, right? Like, who doesn't want to try that? No, but listen, back to the point though, right? Like, because there is another narrative here, which is
Hmm.
is there a line being drawn? And certainly, there's a line being drawn in terms of money. Okay, like, is there a line where the government says this is just too powerful for mere mortals to have, and so only the elites can have this? Now, hold on, because this is exactly what happens with
No, I
guns.
think you're right. Some people already have access to Mythos. It was not pulled. Let's just be
That's
clear.
right.
Right now, as we speak, there are people who have access to Mythos, and clearly everyone inside Anthropic has access to Fable 5.
That's right.
So we've already, without saying it, we've said the silent part out loud. There's already a class effect
class
on this.
effect, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it won't get why I was shaking my head was that it's like no matter how it's again the train's left the station, the cat's already out of the bag, right? We are going to be armed with LLMs. They're going to get more powerful. Period. The question is, how does this all end? Right? We now know there will be like
So let's flip to
every
that.
government, no, every society has classes of people. Period. So I expect that the Anthropic employees, Anthropic friends will always have the best of the best, right? Same thing
Yeah, that
across
makes sense. So I
DC,
used operating
etc.
systems a year before the public at Microsoft.
Exactly, and they'll
Right.
be more powerful, period, because these are also going to be wealth creating things. So we know that every society exists with these classes. However, now mere models, right? Us, no kidding, and
Us.
others are now going to be equipped with something very powerful, right? And
Mhm.
there are good people in society, bad people in society, and then there are the other people in society, right? So what does that mean for us?
So let's talk about this a little more. So we're getting to the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk implications, like isn't it suggesting? Let's talk about implications for, let's call it, like, if we get ambitious, the planet. And then let's talk about implications for companies. And let's talk about implications for professionals. Let's just go. And we don't have to do it all at once. Let's start with professionals because that's the smallest thing. If you're a professional now, you lost access to Mythos and to Fable. No, sorry, not Mythos, Fable 5. What should you be doing next?
Well,
Waiting?
I mean, certainly partially waiting, right? I mean, look, there are plenty of other models to be explored out there, and in fact, there's a lot of interesting threads on Reddit about people who took their history, right? They took all of the files that were being generated while they were using Claude Code or something on Mythos, sorry, Fable 5, okay, and they used that to try to reconstruct some of the features that they found in Fable 5. So,
I
like,
saw that. Yeah.
smart engineers are going back and saying, you know what, I like the way in which, again, the interactions happen with Fable 5, again, I don't know, I didn't use it, but like, they liked a lot of the way in which it was providing a more intelligent experience, and now they want to create basically prompts and modify the way in which they're using it. So
I call bullshit on that. That's probably the harness. The model is gone. I call bullshit on that. So,
but it's
I mean,
something. I guess my point is, smart engineers are not sitting still, right?
yes, they're having withdrawal and they're trying to get it back. So
Yeah.
there's nothing we can do except wait. Okay. And actually, people start figuring out how to use the cost because Fable was very expensive. So one of the things that kicked off immediately in those 36 hours where people were trying to figure out how to contain the costs. I ran out of credits all the time. And so my 5-hour windows were basically working for an hour and then stopping. If you are a company, right, you need the latest chips, the latest models for productivity or for whatever it is or at least you feel you do, regardless. What are you doing? It's gone for a sec. But even if it comes back, it could be gone again. That's the implication. What are you doing? Isn't it?
Say that, like, ask that again. I'm trying to wrap my head around
If
it.
you were a company, this is unprecedented to you,
Yes.
especially if you're a domestic US company, right? Because even the 90s crypto ban didn't do anything to you. It's gone from you. But not only that, you now know that it's possible for this infrastructure to be gone. What are you thinking?
I mean, it's the same thing that we discussed earlier. It's like, how do, number one, lean on more local, right,
Okay.
solutions and architect your product and your workflows and all the things that people do based on that first, and probably
Okay.
API into some of these cloud provided solutions. I'm being very tactical, but I'm just saying if this were my company and I was protecting myself,
So create
definitely.
redundancy.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And then I do
Okay.
think that we've over-indexed on the threat, right? The security vulnerabilities, etc. But we're thinking more of the bad actors. You know,
Yeah.
this same power is available for good acting, right? And figuring out how
Yeah.
to flesh out
It's
or
probably a
flush out.
99%, 1%, just like life. Most people
Yes.
want to use it to be productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as people work together, like the whole Red Hat movement, etc., I think that, and I think that if people work together and cooperate, I think we could actually be in a much better place to protect ourselves around against the bad actors. But for me, with LLMs, particularly things we don't control, it's always about how do you generate redundancy? How then do you
Mm.
also improve what I would say, a governance layer, or I think I can't remember
Mm.
what you called
Yeah.
it. How do you, like, I always go back to my time at Bizarre Voice, right, where we were working on data and we had
Hmm.
GDPR coming up with us, and
Hmm.
we didn't know all the ways in which the EU would ask for data to be pulled,
So
and
an
then us
abstraction layer that
ourselves,
you
exactly,
could
that we could
evolve.
control and
Yeah.
evolve ourselves, and that's what we did. We
Yeah.
wanted it to
If they
be
came with a new legislation, you had a layer of business rules that could absorb the new
exactly.
rules.
Hence my
Yeah.
passion. You guys have heard me talk about. I'm a product person, but all of a sudden, all my data experience, I'm really trying to parlay it into this AI governance and business logic and this layer, because I think it's going to be more important
No,
now than it
100%.
ever has been.
Yeah.
So
I think the skill set of what do you want to call this, abstraction, governance, redundancy, like these are all very good skill sets for you to sharpen as an engineer, as a product person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not going to go away. I guess, okay, let me rephrase that. It will go away, but the scarcity will become something else, right? Because
Hmm.
remember, look, I started programming back in the day when memory was scarce, right? What a joke
Hmm.
that is now. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
But back, I was programming in C++, things where you had to allocate memory, and memory was a scarce thing, and you had to be efficient
Hmm.
about it, right? Or try to be efficient about it. And like,
Hmm.
what a joke that is now. I mean, in fact, bloating stuff is like the par for the course, because it forces you to buy a new smartphone. But anyway, the point is, but the resource constraint moves somewhere else, right? So building these techniques as an engineer in terms of refining your skills, this is not going to be wasted energy. So if you figure out a way to abstract away the risk that you have from relying on a single frontier model, or a single feature of a single frontier model, or in terms of the data, or in terms of anything, right? Like, that's a good skill set to build. So I think that's the answer, right? You in terms of actual being better at Fable 5, you can't do anything. But in terms of being a better engineer around Fable 5, sure.
I love it. I love it. This is smart. Now, before we leave, think bigger. Like, what have we learned from this? If you're a citizen of the planet, it doesn't matter where you're sitting. What is this? Let me put some guardrails around it. We're going to have better and better models. They're not all going to be, some of them might be controlled, right? Just because we figured that this is now ordinance that people want to control. And by people, we mean governments, not just the US government, but other governments.
mm-hmm.
What is the bigger implication beyond, say, companies, do you think?
Reduction of dependency on the United States. That's for sure.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I just got back from Europe again, and I'm traveling abroad quite a lot. There is one again and again and again. It's like, yeah, they got a lot of money. Yeah, they got all the resources. Yeah, they got a lot of tech, but we cannot be
We
dependent.
can't rely on them.
To reduce our dependency on the United States. That's absolutely everybody on the rest of the world is thinking about that. And even if in this particular case, right, it does free up or whatever, you do have options, right? And so even in scenarios where people don't have options, they're like, I need to develop options, even if it takes me time. And actually, specific here was talking about the venture capital industry in Europe, was like, listen, we can't compete, but we might be able to compete 20 years from now, right? And so we have to be, and for them, of course, much different, right? $1 trillion, trillions, billions, big numbers. This is different for, other people or other companies or other countries even that may not have that kind of GDP wealth. But it's not that different because it's a lot like cell phones, right? Which is, look, we cannot rely on the first world to come here and make things better for ourselves. We have to figure out a solution that works for us locally. And I think that's what we're going to see here. We wrote a piece about local LLMs and on-device LLMs a long time ago. We're seeing this happening, right?
It's almost like we are prophetic, huh?
Yeah, well, there you go. The article of the Ethiopian young man who won the AI challenge, again, by building using local phone-based LLMs, right? This is the future, and unfortunately, the sad reality of anybody who isn't a superpower. If you're not a superpower, the superpower is not going to share. They're going to use their power against you, period. Whether you're called an ally today or an enemy, doesn't matter, right? So if you're not here in the US and you're not of the people that have the access to these models, you're not going to get it, or you certainly shouldn't rely on it. And that's the lesson I'm hearing from everybody else.
Go ahead, punch me in the face again, Ted.
Hey, man.
I don't believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say, and I hope. Kind of tied to what you said, Ted. I wonder what corporate structures may emerge because of this. So the way TikTok had, was where it was, and in order to operate in the U.S., it had to split and create a U.S. entity, etc. Will U.S. companies that are working on models begin to change their corporate structure to allow?
Yeah, they will start to incorporate like C launch. They will become stateless.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
I think
to protect themselves.
Something there to protect themselves, exactly, and make sure that if US shuts X down, at least EU can continue with its rules. I think there may be something there.
There might be something there.
I do also think that there's an opportunity in the cybersecurity space right now, because if the 1% if that 1% of bad actors is what's controlling the narrative, being able to build quickly and survey the security risks and act quickly and use mythos level capability to.
Oh, I love this rapid reaction using Fable,
exactly, right, or mythos, right? I think
because you can't protect against the inspection, but you can react quickly to it, and that's it's just like DevOps.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, but reacting to it quickly is the skill.
Yes. So in all these spy movies, you see something comes in and then break glass and then foam comes and protects whatever, right? What is the version of this in a Fable in a Fable and Mythos world? And then the last thing is what does this mean for society? The idea of separating from the United States is just like so I think of what are the other states that or governments that people can rely on, and I just don't see any.
No, China. Just to be clear, the answer is China.
I know
they release open weight models for everybody.
EU won't do it. EU won't do it.
Do we care that the EU won't do it?
Yeah, we do, because it's about world adoption. I think everybody's still scared of China. So someone.
No, let's be correct. The EU and the US are scared of China. I don't think everyone else is.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Even African countries are. I think they know going in, and Latin American countries are. They know going in. So there's a gap. I don't know who fills that gap of bringing other minds together and working. You know how the US helped guide the internet and its evolution? Someone needs to come in and guide.
So this is very interesting. There is a gap. It's unfilled.
Nobody else is trusting the US. Nobody wants China to do it. But there's an opportunity here. that somebody could fill and do
Yeah.
it as a collective. That's
You guys are
right now.
brilliant.
Yeah.
What is the IETF of AI? Does
My
it even
point,
exist?
I was going to get there.
That's exactly where we're going.
IANA.org, when
Yes,
the internet
exactly.
happened, like, who are those?
Yeah, IANA
There's a
exists.
big
What is the
difference.
AI equivalent?
The operating cost of this is unbelievably huge. So it's a little bit, it's inverted for those things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but you guys heard it first. This is, AI is now ordnance. We are in an era of export controls for artificial intelligence. The mask is off about what it is to the world. And there are gaps, right? Like we need better international institutions that are stateless to control this. Otherwise, this will go in so many weird directions. And if you're a professional, learn about abstraction. If you're a company, learn about abstraction.
We're not even saying that we want international governmental because it's efficient. It's that outside of that, we will be in this chaotic.
Yeah, there's no
world.
trust. You
There's
need
no
a
trust.
trustful custodian,
Yeah.
which in the past has been a mixture of the US backed institutions or those institutions by themselves, Switzerland, whatever. But right now it's a little chaotic. It's so fast that it hasn't been created and it needs to be created.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to put out an article with some of this stuff. But keep on trucking. This too will pass. You'll get Fable eventually, and this will blow over. But this is an epochal moment. We'll remember this time in history because it was the first time that the mask came off and the true import of what AI is was shown to everybody. So stay frosty, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Peace.